So when you open up SketchUp, it gives you kind of this workspace. So you want to create a new file. So it gives you some different templates to use. We're just going to start with simple inches. When you click on it, it will open and look like this. So a little bit about what's going on your screen. So first we have like our file menu up at the top. So we have file, edit, view, camera, draw, tools, window, extensions, and help. So this is where you would go to save, to exit, other kind of typical toolbar things up there. And then underneath that, we have our toolbar section that has a lot of our common tools. And we're actually going to right click over in an open area and add in this large tool set. So you can click on and off a whole bunch of different tools. So getting started is this one that we have right now. We're also going to turn on the large tool set. It just gives you more of the tools over here, a little bit easier to find instead of doing drop down, just to help you guys find some of those tools to get started with. So we have tools on the top, tools on the side now. Things that have a little drop down have other things underneath. When you see a letter next to a tool, that is the keyboard shortcut. So like if I pushed C right now, it would switch to the circle. Oh, now it's switching. So circle and R is rectangle. So you can switch back and forth. And if you look at my pencil, you can kind of see what it's doing up here. So you can try and learn some of those keyboard shortcuts. It'll make working a lot quicker. Another thing on the right side is the tray. So these little tabs in here are helpful for doing different design things or just helping you on how to use different tools. And you can open and close different things. This instructor one is kind of nice. Like right now I'm on the rectangle tool, so it's telling me a little bit about how to use it. If I click a different tool, it'll tell me what it is, how to use it. So this is the orbit. So that's kind of handy as you're learning how to do different things. Materials, we'll get into that later, and like how to add materials to different things that you've made. Entity info, so that's once you have something drawn, it'll give you info there too. So you want to keep those open over there. It'll be helpful for later on. And then lastly, along our bottom, we have the status bar. So depending on what tool you're on, it tells you kind of what to do. So I'm still on the rectangle tool, so it's telling me click to set first corner. And now it says click to set opposite corner or enter length, comma width. So it tells you even how to use the tool down in the bottom. Another thing down here is the dimensions. So you can set dimensions and things like that, and we'll get to that later on, but you can see how long you're drawing, how big things are down in that little dimensions tab. And lastly, our big open space here, that is our workspace, our 3D workspace. So lastly, I want to show you guys how to navigate and orient yourself around in the space. So like you just saw, I was orbiting. So this is the orbit tool, but I'm using my mouse. So again, with these CAD programs, you want to be using a mouse that has a click wheel. So if I hold the click wheel on my mouse, I can orbit around my workspace. I can use that wheel and move in and out on the wheel to zoom in and out. And wherever my mouse is, that's where it's going to zoom. So if I move my mouse over here, it's going to zoom over that way. And then we can also pan. So this is the pan tool, the little hand to move sideways. But you can do it with the mouse by holding the shift key and holding the click wheel. So that is how you pan, orbit with the middle scrolly wheel, and zoom up and down with the scrolly wheel. So getting into a little bit of how SketchUp works here. So I'm going to draw a line. So I'm going to grab my pencil tool. And you can even see here that next to our person, so this person is just a reference. It's just to show us how big we're drawing things. So she's an average size adult. And then we have a green, a red, and a blue line. So these are different axes of our three-dimensional world. So as I draw, so right now I'm on the green axis. If I go this way, I'm on the red. I can get up to the blue, so I'm going vertical. So you can pay attention to how you're drawing different lines to make sure they're on the axes that you want them to be on. So green and red is the ground, and so I drew a little rectangle there. So when you draw one line, that is called an edge. So once you have at least 3 edges connecting that are on the same plane, then it closes off and makes a face, and it like fills it in. So if they weren't on the same plane, so sometimes when you're drawing, and you close off a shape, it doesn't actually fill in. And the reason for that is if I rotate around, they're not all on the same plane or the same surface. This kind of juts down and is making it be kind of like a 3D shape. So that's why it didn't fill in, because it's not on the same plane or coplanar. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to those colors when you're drawing lines. An easier way, if you're trying to make shapes that are pretty simple like this, is just to use some of the shape tools. We have circles, polygons, rectangles. So if I wanted a circle, I can just draw a circle and it's going to be filled in. So we have edges, which are the lines, and faces, which is the center part. You can click on them, and depending on what you've clicked on, it shows you that it's selected. So you also have an eraser tool, which is really helpful. So you can't erase a face. This middle part of this triangle, I can't erase. I can only erase edges. But once you erase an edge, it gets rid of that face as well. I'm going to keep that filled in there. So a couple other things to note as you're drawing different things is the inferencing that SketchUp does. So if I draw a new rectangle here, it can kind of guess what you want to click on. So you can see as I come around, it finds the end point and it kind of snaps to it. So if I wanted to draw something from the end, it snaps right to it. It also does midpoints. So right from the middle, so maybe I wanted to cut this rectangle in half, it'll snap the midpoints. So the midpoints, the ends, it'll kind of even tell you like when things are equal. So you can tell it's making a little dotted line across. I know those 2 lines there were equal height. So that inferencing can be really, really helpful when drawing things that you want to be like a certain dimension or centered, things like that. All right, so we have a lot of 2D shapes going on here. I could take this rectangle that I've started here, maybe I'll get rid of this line in the middle, and make it a full cube by closing it all off here, but that gets kind of complicated because you have to find all those right edges and start filling in all the sides. So that can take a long time to make that into a 3D shape. SketchUp has a different tool to make basically any of these other 3 that I have into a 3D shape. So it's called the push-pull tool. So it's this little rectangle with an arrow on top. So if I take this first rectangle that I drew, I can pull it up or push it down. So it's just push-pull. And again, if you need it to be a certain height, you can look at those dimensions on the side, and we'll get more into like exact dimensioning of things later. But I can push and pull all these up and down and move this guy around. That one got a little weird because I have 3 walls there. So, and this is also how you can create holes in things. So maybe I want to create a hole through this cube. I can draw a circle and pull it through. So right now it's only part of the way through. But if I keep going, oops, still not all the way through. There we go. So it kind of changes from dots to like solid. And now I have a hole all the way through. So that is just some really simple basics of how to navigate, make a couple simple shapes, push, pull, erase. Next, we'll make a pretty simple shape that you will take a picture to turn in.